I've been thinking about this for a while, and it's time that you and I talked about how bad the floating cabanas at CocoCay really are. The pricing is out of control. The maps and the cabana locations make no sense whatsoever, and how the cabanas are assigned to passengers is freaking maddening. I have some ideas on how we can fix it, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. Okay, real quick, just to be clear, there are many different types of cabanas in CocoCay, but today we're only going to be talking about the floating cabanas, so if I say cabana, I'm referring to the floating cabana variety only. Okay, let's jump into it. I think we can break down the cabana issues into 4 major categories. Okay, first, we should talk about availability. There's only 20 cabanas on the island, and depending on the day and what ships are in port, there could be more than 7,000 passengers on the island. Next, pricing. We've rented the cabanas from as little as $1,000 to as much as $1,900 for the day. That's a pretty major swing for an 8-hour period. Then we should cover the crappy cabana maps. Royal Caribbean excursion staff use these maps to show passengers exactly what they've purchased and where their cabana is going to be located. They're horrible. Okay, and finally we should talk about some of the bizarre rules surrounding cabana usage, and I have a couple tips to get the most out of your day if you do decide to rent a cabana. As I mentioned, there are currently only 20 cabanas on the island. I've heard Royal Caribbean is planning on adding a few more in the future, but for right now, there's only 20. Depending on what ships are scheduled to visit the day you visit CocoCay, as many as 7,000 passengers trying to get one of those 20 cabanas. So how does Royal Caribbean decide who gets the privilege to pay for access to a Royal Cabana? Well, that's where it gets a little complicated. There are several factors that seem to affect the process, and we're going to go through them next. First, just like getting your hand on any limited resource, there's an element of luck involved. Of course, you can improve your chances by monitoring the site. And if you even think you want a cabana, you need to reserve it as soon as one becomes available. Sometimes for us, that's meant checking the app hourly and even making a reservation in the middle of the night. I can't stress this enough. Reserve early. They will go fast. I don't think this part of the process can be improved much, but it is an important step to getting a cabana. However, it does appear that even after all the reservations are taken, suite and above passengers still have a chance. Royal Caribbean not only holds back a limited number of cabanas for these passengers, but they will also work to secure cabanas that have already been sold to other passengers. I guess it does make sense from a business standpoint. If you think about it, a suite passenger can spend up to 10 times the amount that a standard passenger might spend on a cruise. And Royal Caribbean does need to keep them happy. Tell me what you think about this process in the comments. I'd still like to see a more, even playing field when it comes to reserving cabanas. Cabana pricing can bounce all over the place. We've paid as little as $1,000 for a day and as much as $1,900 for a day. That's a pretty massive swing for the exact same cabana just on different days. But don't worry, all cabanas sold on your sailing for the day you're going to visit CocoCay will all be the same price. However, it's kind of a little quirky thing. Another ship visiting CocoCay could actually sell their cabanas for less than or more than the ones you purchased. But generally, cabana selection does not affect pricing. It doesn't matter what cabana you end up with, you're going to pay the same price as everyone else on your ship paid for their cabanas. And while that does seem like a great idea, it's actually a completely horrible idea. And we'll cover that a little bit more when we cover the crappy map section in just a few minutes. Okay, so how do we figure out what a reasonable price is for a floating cabana? I guess first we need to look at what you're actually getting for your money. The cabanas include the following. You get 8 hours of access to the private floating cabana for 8 members of your party. You can add 2 additional people at $50 each. You get use of 2 floating mats, snorkeling gear, a private ocean slide, which is a lot of fun, the kids love it, 4 chase lounge chairs along with 1 umbrella, a storage area with a lock, a table with 4 chairs and a second umbrella, a big comfy couch with 2 large chairs, a private changing room, a water cooler, an unlimited supply of bottled water, a mini fridge stocked with sodas, beer, and wine, and there's an extra charge with that unless you have a drinking package. You also get access to the Bluetooth entertainment center so you can play your own music. Oh, and the most important part, a team of cabana attendants that will bring you as much food and drink as you can possibly consume. Okay, I know what you're thinking. You could spend an entire weekend at a beach resort for the $1,900. Heck, if you timed it right, you could probably even include the flight to the beach resort along with your food, drinks, and your room. That's a lot of money. $1,900 can go a long way on land. And in fact, when you think about it, you could easily spend less on your entire cruise than you're going to spend on this 8-hour visit to a cabana. And you're not wrong, floating cabanas are crazy expensive. But I think Royal Caribbean's pricing structure is based on what you might normally be spending your other excursion dollars on. So for example, in St. Kitts, we paid $39 a person to visit a beach for 4 hours. In addition to that, we had to pay another $20 for 2 umbrellas and a couple of lounge chairs. So for $280, all we got was 4 chairs, 2 umbrellas, and access to a beach with a couple hundred strangers for 4 hours. And that didn't include any food, drinks, and there certainly weren't any cabana attendants. So if you compare it to other excursions you can purchase, it's kind of a great deal. I mean, at least that's how we rationalize it every time we spend the money. Okay, this is my pet peeve out of everything. Let's talk about the crappy cabana map that Royal Caribbean puts in your room the night before you arrive to show you where your cabana is going to be, along with the instructions on exactly what to do. The issue here is that not only do the maps not match reality, there seems to be different versions of this map on every ship we've been on. Okay, you're thinking to yourself, why does it matter if the maps are off a little bit? Big deal. Okay, it is a big deal, and I'm going to tell you why. This is the same maps that the excursion desk uses to assign all the cabanas. So all the cabanas are numbered 1 through 20. The most southern cabana is number 1, and the most northern one is 20. And if you remember, like I said before, they get split between the ships. So 1 through 10 will be assigned to one ship, and 11 through 20 will be assigned to the other ship. So why does it matter if all the cabanas are exactly the same, they all have the same amenities? Why does it matter which number you get? Trust me, it makes a huge difference which one you get assigned. While all the cabanas are the same price, they are far from the same value. Let me give you an example of the difference in value. Cabana 16 is the furthest out on the northern set of cabanas. It has an unobstructed view of the entire ocean. There are no cabanas that push out further than it. It sits in the deepest amount of water. At the lowest tide, it still has 4 to 5 feet of water underneath the cabana. Whereas cabana number 1 is the southernmost cabana. It sits at low tide in about a foot of water and all of 10 to 15 feet off the shore of South Beach, where all the people that didn't pay for a cabana can walk up and stand right in front of your cabana. All the different versions of the map seem to downplay the differences in the cabanas. It's really more deceptive than inaccurate. If you've never been to CocoCay before, if you've never stayed on a floating cabana, you wouldn't have a clue what the differences were. I think at the very least, Royal Caribbean needs to standardize all the maps, redraw them accurately so that they show exactly what you're paying for. What I'd really like to see is Royal Caribbean change their pricing structure for cabanas. Not all rooms in the same class on the same ship are the same price. And this should be the same thing on cabanas. Just because all the cabanas have the same amenities doesn't mean their value is the same. And that should be reflected in their cost. An even better solution would be, and one I hope they employ when they install the additional cabanas, move them all out the same distance to the island so they all have about the same view. That way they all have the exact same value, and then pricing can be consistent across the board. Am I making too big of a deal out of the maps? If you think I am, let me know in the comments. If you think I'm right, let me know in the comments. Okay, this part's a little bit more fun and maybe a little bizarre. So let's talk about some of the bizarre rules and cabana tips that I can offer you. So you spent a couple $1,000s on a cabana, now what? Here's some of the things that we've experienced that just seem a little bit off. First, the rules about where you can and can't swim around your own cabana. This is just bizarre. Depending on which cabana you rent, there's actually areas and zones around the cabana you're not allowed to swim in, and the lifeguards that patrol the area will stop you, and I've been yelled at maybe once or twice. For example, if you have cabana 16, it's pushed out fairly far beyond the rest of the cabanas. So you're absolutely allowed to swim around the front, both the left and right side, and around the back of your cabana. Never have an issue there whatsoever. Cabana 14, and I think maybe 17, 14, 16, 17, yeah, 17 is back behind other cabanas like we talked about before. This cabana, you're only allowed to swim in the front of the cabana and on the left side of the cabana. If you swim around the back of the cabana or on the right side, the lifeguards will actually yell at you for it. Bizarre. Oh my God. And absolutely do not swim under any of the floating docks. I made that mistake and they were seriously not impressed. Okay, let's talk about the pretty purple flags. While you're more than welcome and actually encouraged to swim at both Coco Beach Club and off of your cabanas, you'll notice that behind the lifeguard there's a flag. It's a nice purple flag blowing in the breeze. It's more than a decoration though. It actually indicates the presence of dangerous marine life in the area. The waters off of Coco Beach Club and underneath the cabanas is swarming with sharks. Mostly small lemon sharks. We've seen a few 5 to 6 footers swimming around as well. Also, the last time we were there, we saw plenty of barracudas and a few lionfish actually living up underneath the cabanas. I wouldn't worry about any of these though. They tend to leave you alone unless you're harassing them. Okay, let's talk about the cabana safes. Every cabana has a big comfy couch, like I mentioned, a couple chairs, and in front of that there's a table. Inside the table there's a safe. One side of it, the other side just a compartment. On the safe side there's a lock, obviously. The combination for the lock is a little weird. It's the same combination for all the cabanas except for the last 2 digits, which happens to be the cabana number. So security-wise, I don't know that that's much of use, but I guess it'll keep your flip-flops safe. Okay, and finally I'm going to talk about the amazing staff at the Cocoa Beach Club. And I also want to mention our favorite attendant. We request him each time we return, and his catchphrase kind of sums up the entire experience. If you ask Manbar to get you something, a kind of a special request, that kind of thing, his response is typically, "Why not?" And immediately he's off to go take care of whatever the task is. He's an amazing attendant and really does a great job. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Felix, the Cocoa Beach Club manager. He is extremely personable and professional. He has taken care of some minor issues for us in the past and done an amazing job. Quite often when you first get to the Cocoa Beach Club, Felix will be there to greet you. If you see him, say hi for us. Okay, so I'm not sure we really solved any of the problems with the floating cabanas, but I think we talked about some good ideas, and I feel good about that. Leave your ideas in the comments. Let me know what experiences you've had with the Cocoa Beach cabanas. You think they're a good thing, a bad thing, overpriced, underpriced? Where are you at with this? Let me know. Also, I'd like to thank you for listening in, watching our videos. If you're not already subscribed, please consider subscribing. It helps out the channel a ton and allows us to bring you new content every week. Okay, I guess that about wraps it up. Thank you guys for watching.
We made it.